Hey guys, it is Trina Unicorn. I am here to hang out for an hour. I have activities planned. I have fucking snacks. Like, this is great. I am ready to hang out. I'm ready to have a few stories, things about my roaring 20s when I lived in Kingston and partied, all the time, or whether when I played competitive soccer or competitive poker, which was different times of my life. I plan to cover a few random topics like that and story time styles. So stick around if you want to do that. So this is I have to like pace myself because normally when I make videos, I'm like, go, 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 topic, retention, keep the people watching. But this one is a hangout. It's a chill. Let's hang out, have a little snack. Do you know what these things are? These are some of my favorite snacks in the world, okay? These are little pepperettes that I really like. These are little bread things, but if I eat them, my mouth's gonna get so dry and it's gonna be like crumbs flying. So I'm not sure if that's well thought through. But I have mini bocconcini and then cut up Ontario strawberries because you can grow strawberries in greenhouses. So I'm eating local. So I have something really exciting. One of my favorite things that I don't have very often because it's very high in calorie and sugar and things like that is coconut milk bubble tea. Okay, this is one of my favorite things in the world. I even have videos spanning years back on my main YouTube channel talking about how I would smoke a joint and I would stash one of these things in my fridge. Right, I just put it there. I'd buy it and I'd put it in the fridge untouched. And then I smoke a joint and then I like be in my chill vibe. And then I discover it when I was, in the right mood for it. And I remember giving myself so much joy, so much genuine excitement and joy because I found a gift I had left myself earlier. And it was just like, these are the things that I do that bring joy. So I actually even drank one of these in the first ever video live stream I did on YouTube. It's funny because I cringe watching that video because I took a bunch of like tapioca balls in my mouth and like talked and like had my mouth full and like it's embarrassing, but truthfully I think I'm still going to do it again because that's, if I get chatty, I'll just keep talking. So, I'll make some faux pas or whatever, but since when do I care a lot about those things? So anyways, I actually made a little list of things that I may cover, things that are topics that are, part of my life, things like my competitive poker streak when I used to go to these like scheduled poker nights. They were in bars in Kingston. I might as well just fucking talk about it. And this was when the NHL had a strike. Okay. So I don't remember what year it was. It was at least 15 something, 20 years ago. But it was when the entire season of hockey was canceled. And they basically, competitive poker had a brief comeback into popularity. And it was shown on TV as much as the other sports. That's kind of when I got into it. I love Texas Hold'em. In fact, if you could see these little containers, if you see the design of them, they are cards, ace of spades. This is ace of hearts, right? So I'm a big poker person. I mean, I love the game. Now, I am a one-trick pony. I do not play Omaha. I don't find the same joy in the game unless it's Hold'em. So for me, that's where I go. Now, I used to win as much as I lost too, right? I wasn't amazing, but I also was pretty good. And I ended up actually winning a seat. So how it works is you would get into this, bottom level competition and you would win a seat to a different poker game. And I remember living in Kingston, Ontario at the time. I was in like mid 20s and I was dating the poker director because like, of course I was. And so he was the guy that came and showed up and set up the poker tables and the chips for everybody. It was his job. Right. So anyways, and so both him and I won our own seats into this advanced poker game. And so we had to drive to Toronto. We even had to spend the night somewhere and go and play in this. I don't know how many tables, but there was like 30 tables of people in this big like auditorium playing a poker game. Okay. I did not, make it to the end. I think I was like table 6 or something, meaning all the other tables had already like left, vacated their people. I was like the last 6 tables. But I mean, does that really count, or do you have to make it to the final table to feel like you got a ticket into the final game? So it was a good experience. I enjoyed playing in that way, but I don't know. I like playing with a bunch of people that I know. I did not like the experience of a casino. I went to play poker. I sat down, stranger, have no idea how they're betting, have no idea how aggressive of a player they are, nothing. And so I did not find I benefited the same without that psychology layer of the poker game. I like the people who buy into a game or the people you play. Yes, that's how I prefer it. So, hey, just if I can prefer how you want to make love to me, I can have ways of preferring poker, like everyone has preferences. So I used to play competitively, but I also played for fun. And I used to wear custom. This is not going to surprise anyone who knows me from my main YouTube because I wear custom clothes all the time, but I made custom t-shirts that I would wear to these poker games. And back then I was a little bit thinner and I still had booty, and I would wear jeans and this tight little top that said, one of them said, I would check raise my own mother. And there was so many funny sayings, but I remember showing up ready to play and ready to win. Like I had that energy. I had that aura. Hey, R, it's nice to see you here. And I meant it because I was good at poker. I was good at the fucking mind fuckery, frankly. Staring into guys' eyes, especially, is a powerful thing to do. And I remember like when a guy would be, going heads up with me on a big pot, like I would literally look him in the eye and like, say shit to him to try and get him to show some sort of sign, right? And so it was fun for me to have that as my advantage, if you will. So I did enjoy playing. I do have a story on YouTube about when I hustled a bunch of guys in a poker game. And it's a true story. And the reason I say hustled is because they looked me up and down as a girl and were barely going to let me in. I was the only girl playing. They asked me if I was at the right place. They asked me if I knew what I was doing. And I just remember being like, okay, I'm going to play into this. I don't know. Is red better than black? I remember saying that. And that does not matter in poker, red and black, the suits. It isn't a relevant factor unless you're talking about flushes, right? So I played up the fact that I might not know what I'm doing. And so these guys had no problem taking my money. I think it was like $60 buy-in, whatever. I was with my brother-in-law at the time. And we played. Now, there was only 2 games played. And I remember the first game, I took the final pot. I took it. I won the game. And this guy over here, my left or whatever, my right, it was like, oh, beginner's luck, I'm sure, whatever. And I was just like, it must be, right? So then we played game 2, and I did win that game too. Statistically, that's not likely for me. Like that, that's almost like a fake story, but it's not. I did win both games because I was never allowed back there. The guy literally said to me, like, don't you come back? Like, that's bullshit. So I won the game. Just one guy. This is the guy that set up the game and let us in. But it was still such it was a bit of pleasure for me to be like, actually, I do know what I'm doing here, and I'm going to take the money. So I enjoyed my time playing poker. I used to play poker online. Not for money all the time. If I did, it was for like penny games on, whatever. And it was a good pastime for a while, but I don't play it very often now. I don't know a lot of like in-person, not super competitive poker organizations. Maybe I should look a little bit more. I wonder if the lifestyle could have like a poker night. That's an interesting idea. See, I don't want to run events. I want to give ideas out for people to run great events. And so that was my poker story. I did date the poker director. It was freaking awesome. I love dressing up in my outfits for the games. I remember also getting a pitcher of beer, not a glass of beer, a pitcher of beer. And I would literally sit it down and like be dealt in and drink out of the pitcher. And I was hardcore like this. Like I did drink that whole pitcher while I was playing the game. Like I literally drank a pitcher of beer playing, a couple hours of poker. And I liked that I did it in style like that. It was just part of the vibe that I brought in. I was there to play. So I don't remember what the other shirt sayings were, but like I had so much fun with the psychology of the game. Now there's different types of poker players. There's people who are like the math statistical side. They're the ones that are like, based on the flop and my cards, I have like a 62% chance of winning. I like bravo to those people. My brain does not work like that. It's like, how do I feel my hand is doing? And then if I feel good, then I'll keep going. It is also based on logic. I know the odds. I just don't know the specific statistics of based on what's played. That's just not how I do it. So anyways, that is the poker topic. So I'm glad I was able to talk about that. There's a few different topics or like stories from my past that like just kind of rose to the surface today when I was thinking like, what am I going to tell you about? But I'm not sure like where it's going to go. So if you have any suggestions, by all means, drop them in the chat. If I don't talk about it this time, I might next time, right? So there's things like that. But I did want to mention a memory that I have about what it feels like to feel free living unapologetically. Okay, so first I need a drink because my mouth is so pasty because I just smoked a joint. Okay, give me a second here. Hopefully I don't forget what I just fucking said. All right, live unapologetically. All right, cheers. So, oh yeah, that's good. That's great. Okay, so I have always been a little more, I don't know what the word is, but I tend to just like be myself around people, even if those people might expect a certain level of decorum or something else. I don't know how else to word it. I'm just myself. I say what's on my mind. Sometimes I shock people, things like that. But one of the most one of the qualities about me that I have gotten complimented on the most, as well as people wanting to have, embraced or enlightened in themselves, is the unapologetic nature, right? The lack of apology for who I am and how I am and what I do. And that's just that, right? And so I remember a specific moment where I smiled so big on the inside when I realized how free I was to live this way, and who cares, right? And I was literally with my boss at the time. It was a male boss. He was like 5-10 years older than me. He was very attractive, very good at his job, and I really respected him. But we were going and having a coffee and chat. Like that's how I had like informal meetings with him. And we get to Starbucks and he basically buys me the coffee. Okay. So I don't normally drink at Starbucks. I find their coffee really strong. And so I need a lot of sugar and cream to enjoy it. Or I'll be like, it's just too strong. It's too bitter or something. So anyway, so he's getting his coffee. He gets my coffee. And in this moment, I know that the socially acceptable thing is to put maybe a little bit of sugar and a little bit of cream and stir it up and walk away. And I knew if I did that, I was going to hate that coffee. And I didn't want to hate the coffee. I wanted to like the coffee. So I just remember him standing there and he puts in a little bit of sugar, a little bit of cream. And I literally was like pouring the sugar straight because I take like at least double. Like if it's Starbucks coffee, it's like I need 3, right? So I'm sure he's looking, he's like, wow. And I was like, yeah, well, that's how I like it. And I remember being like, yeah, I'm going to walk away enjoying this coffee. Even if I think that person judged how many sugars I put in or how much cream I put in, it doesn't matter because that's how I'm going to enjoy my coffee. And I remember having the biggest smile because I was like, I really don't care if he thinks anything weird. That's how I want to enjoy it. And truthfully, he probably, knowing him, respected the fact that I was willing to just be myself and not pretend to be someone else, thinking that that's what people wanted from me. Good bubble tea. Okay. I liked that moment of living unapologetically. I'm going to come up with little examples of those that are relatable, that might inspire other people to want to live more unapologetically themselves, because my goodness, it's freeing, man. It is freeing to not care what people think or whatnot. Now, it's not like I walk around being rude and undiplomatic to people. Of course, it matters that I'm, respectful and like, even diplomatic when I speak to people and things like that. But you can still not give a shit underneath it all, right? You can be good and nice about it, but I still just don't care. And so there's one thing that Kim Cattrall, who was one of my heroes, she played Samantha on Sex and the City. She has a famous quote in an interview about her real life where she said something to the effect of, I will never go another hour for the rest of my life doing something I don't want to do. Not even one more hour. And I remember hearing that many years ago and being like, there's something to that. It's like a personal commitment to stop, people pleasing, to stop, doing what you think people want you to do, and instead do what you want to do. I adopted that. I have lived that way for years. I can tell you, even though I do things that I don't want to do, such as going to the dentist, I do it willingly, knowing that if I don't, my dental situation will be worse. So I technically still do the thing that I want to do because I don't want my situation worse, even if it's painful in the moment. So there's some clarity there. I don't just like say no more needles, no more knives. Like, sometimes you need shit like that to happen. I might even need eye surgery down the road, and I have to like come to peace with that because I have some stuff to be worried about in starting in some of my eyes. Hitting 40, I'm 42, hitting 40, it's not the same. Your body's like, it's just not as well oiled, I guess. I don't know. It's an interesting perspective. So I'm going to come up with more live unapologetic examples because it's freeing. But Kim Cattrall really inspired me. And it's true. I mean, even sometimes when I have plans with friends and I'm feeling really like unsocial or whatever, I'll even just say to them, look, like I'm really not up for a hangout, even though I wish I was. Can we reschedule? And usually people are really understanding. I've learned, as long as you're, careful with other people's feelings and try not to like cancel at the last minute, people are pretty understanding. And so I have kept to that. I have not done things I didn't want to do. Yeah. And it's just a way to, live a different way. A way that's more true to you. So R says wait until 50, the warranty runs out. Yeah, I've heard that I've got to be, really taking care of like my muscles, my, when you're over your 40s, your body isn't just a given. Okay. It's not going to just work. And when you get up, your body's not going to feel not stiff or anything. It's just not going to be, automatic anymore. I've learned. And so you do have to take care of it in a way that maybe I didn't before, and things like that. So, it's honesty about aging. It's interesting. But yeah, I love some of the comments here. I'm going to actually make dedicated time to like go through the comments. But I'm just going to keep rambling because that's what I do best. It's funny. I thought I was going to color a photo and I've already been talking for 20 minutes and I haven't colored a photo. So maybe that's not what I'm doing today. That would be interesting because I have everything ready. Look at. Okay, so speaking of Sex in the City, it's on my little list here of things I wanted to talk about. There are a few shows that have truly inspired me. I am, Toronto Unicorn, a sex positive educator. I have a whole YouTube channel and podcast dedicated to normalizing, sexual expression and the pursuit of pleasure, without the constraints of how you're culturally or society, brought up to think about it. So where was I going with that? I know, see, this is what happens. I'm like, start a tangent and then I'm like, what? If I remember, I'll come back to it, but fuck, that's embarrassing. Well, welcome to ADHD. Oh yeah, Sex in the City. See, it's a good thing I wrote it down. Okay. I watched that show when I was in my early 20s. I'm now 42 years old. I watched that show in my early 20s. And at the time, I hadn't seen shows like Melrose Place or things like that. I still haven't seen that show fully. But at the time, it was the only show on TV that I was aware of where women talked about sex and women had their lives showing, in their pursuit of it instead of just being the object of another man's desire, right? And it was really cool. And it made me and my friends giggle a bit, like, oh my God, can you believe they talk like this about sex, about guys? And we found that really relatable. There's all these episodes that directly correlate to shit that happens in your life. And so every time I go through like a heartbreak or a breakup, there's like certain episodes, such as when Carrie goes out to the ball game, which is like episode 1 of I think it's season 2. I'm not sure. I'm not the best at the numbering, but it's like mandatory viewing when you're going through a breakup because you're like relating to this girl, not wanting to go out in public. And if she does, she's going to get overdressed and, and then have a beer in public and like just try to come out of her depression. Right. That's relatable. And there's other breakup episodes that are just, on the queue as well when those things happen. But even things like Great Expectations, where you have this expectation, you've got this good chemistry with a guy, and then you make it to the bedroom and things just don't click. And you're left, you try again, things didn't click. And it's like, what do you do when that doesn't click, right? And so there's an episode about that. So if you go through something like that, you can find comfort in other people's experiences. So the show has been medicine for me every time I needed a break from life, meaning like when I needed to hibernate mental health wise. And sometimes it was when I finished university and I wanted to spend a month watching my favorite shows and eating food because that's all I wanted to do after studying and working so hard. That's when I would click and like start season 1, episode 1 of Sex in the City, and I would watch it all the way through. And it's 6 seasons, but the 6th season has like double the amount of episodes as season 5. So I technically think whatever, there's more than that, but there's also movies that they did after. So it was just, if you want to know the kind of content and the kind of, media out there that can actually have this important shaping effect on people, then go and watch it, especially if you're a guy, because you don't want to miss this inside information. This is like insight into women for sure. So so it's one of my favorite shows, and I own it in my, it's like a pink velvet DVD set. It was like all 6 DVDs, and I own it. So I don't own any other show. That's the only TV show I ever purchased the full set for. And it's just, I wanted to own it. I wanted it to be close to me. Okay. It came with a book. I flipped through the book. Like I was a fan. Okay. So I watched this show in my 20s. And at the time, the women in the show were much older than me. They were in their like 33 to 34-year-old women at the start of the series. And I was in my 20s. Okay. So I was like, wow, is that what the future problems are going to be too? Right. So then time moves. I graduate university, I get a job, I move on with my life, and then I watch it again. And suddenly I'm the same age as these girls. And I'm like, what happened there? Suddenly I'm 32 and they're 32. And I'm like, this is now really? And then fast forward to year 2026 where we are now. And now I'm fucking older than those girls. Those girls were 33, 34, 35 in some of the early seasons. I'm now 42. I think one of them even said like that was their scary age or something. And it's like, it's weird to see something that inspired me from the future become something from a different perspective. It's very interesting to put it that way. So it's really interesting, but there is still value in that show, even though it's in the 90s for the most part. There's, not until the later seasons did they have as much of the technology stuff. So if you want to go back in time, it's nice too. So that's my favorite show of all time. It just is. But I don't watch a lot of other shows. There's a lot of shows that people are very familiar with, like How I Met Your Mother, that I've seen like one episode. I just can't speak to it. I don't watch a lot, but when I do like something, I immerse myself in it. I'll watch the seasons over and over and over again. That's just part of my personality. And so there's 2 other series in my whole life that I have watched end to end multiple times. I wonder if anyone can guess. This is fucking good, but I'm still trying to remember not to chew and talk with my mouth full. Okay. I think the pleasure should continue. I'm going to have a little bucatini cheese. Oh my God, so good. Oh, so people are guessing. R has suggested Mean Girls. Nope, that's not it. Brando Man has suggested True Blood. Supernatural. Nope. One of them is Seinfeld. Classic. Love the humor. It took a while for Seinfeld to grow on me. I didn't even like Seinfeld or watch Seinfeld in the 90s when it was on TV. I started liking it after the show had ended. I just started watching it on Netflix or whatever and getting really into it. And so I have seen every episode of Seinfeld. I rewatch them all the time, especially while I'm trying to fall asleep, because I like to listen to familiar, non-violent things in my ear while I'm like falling asleep. And so every episode, but there's only a few episodes that I will not watch. I find them not enjoyable. And one of them is that parade episode, the Puerto Rican parade. And they basically get stuck in their car in traffic because a parade takes over the streets. I just didn't like that episode. I found it was just a lot of anxiety. I wouldn't want to be in that situation, all that crap. And so that, wasn't my favorite. And if it comes on again, I will turn it to the next episode. And then the other one is when they lose their car in a parking garage and Elaine's holding a goldfish, someone else is holding something else. And they're just walking around endlessly, this parking garage with multiple floors, not knowing where the car is. So I find that also stressful. Okay. So I don't enjoy that again. So I wouldn't want to do that. So I don't enjoy when that episode comes on and I switch it. So you guys have a couple more suggestions. Someone is saying here, R suggests Friends. Twilight episodes suggest Scrubs. Oh, that's a good one. I think I used to watch a few episodes of Scrubs, but I have not in at least 10 years. So I think that would be good because I'm going to write that down. Scrubs. Because I like recommendations, especially non-violent themes, right? So yeah, so R is right, but R knows me inside and out. But also Twilight episode suggested 90210. And yes, now I have watched every episode of 90210. But before, 6 months ago, I had not. So I did enjoy it. In fact, shameless plug, but I have a whole episode on my Dear Diary podcast talking about my reflections after watching Beverly Hills 90210, in my current age now, and what I thought about going back in time and seeing the way even people dated. There wasn't texting, there wasn't Google Maps, there wasn't Google Translate. Like, there was just this way of living that was nostalgic, and so I enjoyed it. So if you want that episode, I will put it in the description of this episode here, because otherwise, are you going to find it? Probably not. But it's a great episode, and I talk about my reflections on what 90210 did, and talk about the topics of sex and drugs and things like that. But yes, otherwise it's Friends. Friends is the other one where I have watched absolutely every episode, and I love it. I love this show. I love the fact that there's not a lot of violence or things like that. I think you're noticing a trend there, right? I'm an empath, so I just don't do well with those things. And so there's also a few episodes of Friends that I will not watch again. Okay, any guesses on that for any Friends lovers? Because I think we all know what episode that is. It's the breakup episode with Ross and Rachel. It is just heart-wrenching. If you follow these characters, it's relatable. It feels like you're on the inside of this intensity bubble between two people who love each other, but one has made a categoric mistake. And is there forgiveness? Is there not? And I think it's just such a relatable feeling of having to say goodbye to somebody because you can't live with what they did, even though you love them as a person. And I think it's heart-wrenching to watch, and I actually will not watch it again. I won't even watch the episodes where Ross and Rachel are really mad at each other, because I just need more peace in my life, I guess. So that's just some information about that. So there's some other suggestions. Will and Grace. Yeah, I never really got into Will and Grace. Beavis and Butthead is no. I used to laugh at that, but I don't think I would anymore. Big Bang Theory. Yeah, is that the one? I've heard that that's a really popular. I think I'm gonna. They were on a break. It's funny. Okay. Well, anyways, those are the big 3 series that I watch all over. Like even tonight, I'll watch Seinfeld again before I go to bed. It's always so good. Every sip is so good. Okay. I'm going to have another bocconcini. I hope you brought snacks too. Okay. I'm now going to talk to you about soccer. I played a lot of soccer in my life. You might not know that because I don't play soccer now, but I played ever since I was 10 years old. I grew up into it. I played, for the most part, defense. I did play goalie. I didn't want to play goalie all the time, but I was an aggressive player, and I was, I had that defense personality. So I did try hard, even if I didn't save all the goals. But yeah, mostly I played right defense. If you put me in midfield, I was not going to do well. That's way too much running. Forward, I didn't lack the precision with my footwork to be able to score a lot. I wasn't a scorer. I was a defender. I will get that ball from between you and my goalie or my net at any cost, essentially. So that was how the vibe I was in when I played soccer. And it was a good little hobby to have. I grew up playing, and I was a pretty confident person my whole life. Even as a kid, I was pretty confident. And I remember getting my reffing certificate so that I could ref soccer games for I was $15. And as a kid, in my teenage years, this was great money, right? This was an opportunity to make some money. So I would have, I put on my black ref jersey, and I had my my cards, my yellow card, my red card, my whistle, my stopwatch, my paper and pens, or my paper so I could write down the score. So I would, look forward to being the ref. I would enjoy, calling, captains to come and, do your thing. And I enjoyed being the leader of the game. So I was reffing an age group that was really young. And if you've ever watched really young kids play soccer, it's just a lot of people swarming a ball. Like they're just everyone just runs with the ball. And it's really fun to see. But there's also a rule that there's no such thing as offside in a certain level of soccer. After that level, yes, the offside rule applies. But we were playing a younger level, and there was a parent on the sideline that was getting so mad. Like he was being like, "Ref, open your fucking eyes. Like there's an offside." I'm like, "There's kids on the field." This guy's swearing, whatever. I say to him, "There's no offside. Just chill out, whatever." He does it again. He yells again. I was like 4'0". I've always been a short kid. In fact, I was most of the time in my class photos, I was the shortest kid. And it was funny because I would walk over to this guy, this probably 6-foot guy on the sideline. And I went like this, and I took my yellow card and I yellow carded him. And I said, "This is a warning." And I'm like, "One more time and you will be ejected from this." Like I dropped the bomb on this parent. Like it was just this little 4'0". I don't know how old I was, maybe 12, 13. And I was laying down the law to this parent. And if you've ever heard a story that best describes the Toronto unicorn energy, it's that. One of my friends, Elle, likes to say that, she calls me by my name a lot, but she's like, "Sarah, you have the confidence of 10 women." She just, it's just funny. It's true. But even as a kid, I was like, not to be fucked with, so to speak. So that's another little story I wanted to share. So there's a few other topics. I'm going to take a sip first. So you may not know this because I don't like to sing. I don't like karaoke. I would rather do almost anything else than participate in karaoke. I'll watch karaoke. I don't want to sing. So it's funny because when I was young, and I'm talking like elementary school, we had tryouts for a musical for Joseph and the, what is it? Multicolored Coat or Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I got the role of the narrator, which was the second highest singing role in the whole thing. And I remember being like, that was weird. So sure enough, I go, we host the thing, and I would like, I just knew I'm not going to sing for you now. That was me humming. That's as close as you get. But I would just sing, and I remember never again have I sung for fun. Like it's just funny how for some people they love it, they get so much joy out of it. For me, I'm like, yeah, no, not for me. But yeah, so I was the narrator in my school production. I am spoiling myself today. So since I'm not coloring, I might as well move my food closer. So one of my other favorite foods is pepperettes. As much as I like the hot ones, I have to get the medium ones. I hope you guys have snacks too, because I feel rude eating without you. But I was looking forward to this hangout, this live stream. I want to have a vibe of a real hangout, whether you're live or not, because time isn't real. Spoiler alert, time isn't real. So I even was saying to myself, prepping myself for this live stream, I remember saying to myself, the people I hang out with might not even be watching tonight. They might be watching in the future. So in a way, I'm hanging out with somebody in the future, and I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool. Now, did I mention I smoked a joint before this? Because I think it's kind of obvious now. So anyways, I think I'm going to snack away at these, but I also realized like I really can't chew and talk. And it's kind of awkward for me. So, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to scarf this later then. So those are some of the topics. There's another bunch of stuff I'll talk about in my next live stream. Like, back when I was younger, my teenage years, and the fact that I was a rebel and all that, as well as my 20s, which I think I'm going to talk about my 20s. So I did not, I don't know. I didn't put a lot of thought into my academic. Like, I went to college and university. I went to both. But I didn't go because I was ambitious about getting a degree. I wanted to get to party with a student loan. That was like, I was like, okay, if I get a degree, great. But I want 3 or 4 years of partying without judgment and on the government's dime. So yes, I ended up with a lot of student debt, too much student debt. And it took me a long time to pay it off. So would I do it again that way? I don't know. But yeah, so I wasn't like the super ambitious person that way. I just wanted to have this wild, life and be able to party and just no rules, no adults. Like, I just wanted to live that way. And so a lot of my 20s was living like that. I was living alone in a little apartment. I mean, I lived with roommates for some of my 20s. I lived with like 5 girls at one point. It didn't always go well. Like, I don't know if roommates are for me. Like, I don't know in the future if that would be something I could do again. Like a romantic partner, that's different. You don't mind if they eat your peanut butter, so to speak. But I had such bad experiences with roommates, and I don't like having no control over my home environment. I need to know that if I need silence, I can turn off every noise. And if I want to nap, I can nap. And if I want peace, it's there. That's what I need. So I did spend some years with roommates because, when you're in school, you don't have all that money to spend on, your privacy. But once I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment, it was like $590 a month at the time in Kingston. It was a huge apartment. It was great. And it was right downtown Kingston. And I look out my window and I see the nightclubs that I'm going to be going to. Stages is part of Kingston nightlife. At the time, there was this place called AJ's that then turned into a different business name after somebody died there, believe it or not. It's like the story of, the guy who died during your time at university doing that. But yeah, so I remember going to like concerts and things like that there. So I was able to like look out my window and see these places. So my friends would come and we would pre-drink in my apartment. And sometimes we would run to Stages, which was the great nightclub. And you were free if you got in before 10, but we didn't want to go party at 10. So me and my friends would all go to this club before 10. We would all get wristbands and we would turn around and go back to my apartment to drink because we didn't have a lot of money and it was cheaper to drink that way. So that's what we did. And it saved us a ton of money, a ton of time. And it was great for a few years like that, like a couple years. It was great. But then something interesting happened. I graduated university and I ended up getting a full-time job Monday to Friday, right? Like 8 to 4, whatever. And suddenly I couldn't go and party on a Tuesday night anymore. I mean, I was still trying to, but I would go. My friends would go for $2 drinks on Tuesdays. It was Toonie Tuesdays. And we would get hammered and dance and have a great time. But I would go and do that. And then I would sometimes have to call in sick for work the next day because even if I wanted to just shake it off and go to work, I couldn't. And so it was like I had this like tough life lesson of you're growing up. You need to be able to go to work every day. Therefore, you can't party the same. And it was a really interesting transition in my life because my friends, I guess, were a bit younger in that they kept partying when I had to kind of dial it back. And I don't know about you, but when my bay window of this beautiful apartment overlooks the nightlife, people getting burgers after the bar, people strolling out, walk of shames. I could technically turn my lights out in my apartment so that people couldn't see. And I would sit in that window and I would watch crowds of people disperse after the club night. It was entertaining. But you know what was hard? Was sitting there, looking out the window, being responsible, watching my friends leave the bar and like have a great night without me. And it caused a little bit of like an identity crisis because I felt like I was being pulled away from a life that I wasn't ready to give up. And I was struggling with that transition. So that's really like a raw, honest story. It really hurt my like social life because my friends didn't party on the weekends when I was free because that just wasn't when the drinks were cheap or whatever. And most people were doing something else. I think it was just this big adjustment where my friends were going to continue this fun life of, like just have fun, drink, dance, feel good. I didn't smoke weed back then, but I had to watch them do it without me. And it was tough. And then it gets worse. Then I had to see my ex-boyfriends leave the bar and see what girls they left with because I could see that. I was literally overseeing the area where people go, like to leave the club. And then my boyfriend moved into the apartment building across the street from me. And so he had his big living room window facing the street, and I could see, not in his apartment unless he came up to the window, I could see his couch. But literally, like, it was like that Friends, the TV show where it's a ugly naked guy and they look across and they see this man in his apartment pretty like vividly. It wasn't like that, but it was like I was across the street from my fucking ex-boyfriend. And then I would have to watch him leave the bar and take a girl into his apartment building. Like, it was just not the best. I dealt with jealousy back then a lot more. Even if I wasn't dating him at the time, it was still hard to watch. So it felt a little bit like I was like almost like stuck in my castle. Like I'm living in this place. I'm looking down at people enjoying the life I wanted to be part of. And I feel, stuck up in my castle, so to speak. And then it gets worse. So I also in Kingston lived in an apartment above what started out as a restaurant. It was just a restaurant when I moved in. Then it turned into a nightclub and had some after hours. Now, I even looked into the zoning issue because I was like, look, there's no way there's allowing residential people when there's a club that is pumping out music until all hours of the night. But sure enough, I was in the zone where they were allowed to do that. And so it was bad enough that I was stuck in my apartment, not able to party with my friends. But now the music and the bass is coming through my fucking floorboards, and I am hearing other people party below me, even if I wanted to go to sleep quietly. And then they would have country night. And if I didn't like country music, luckily I have somewhat of an appetite for it, it would have driven me crazy. So as much fun as Kingston was, when I outgrew the time in my life when I was a student and I was living life, more freely, it was hard. It was hard, even though I was in the same spot in my physical life, the rest of my life felt so different. So it was a tough time. It wasn't great. I don't love the fact that I had to suddenly give up my Tuesday night drinking, but it's funny now I don't even drink. I smoke weed, but I don't drink. So, yeah, it's funny how life changes and your priorities change. But let's talk about present day, right? It's February 16th, 2026, and I have been in this swinger sex positive lifestyle for about 5 years. I don't talk about it that much on this channel, and I won't right now either. But where I was 5 years ago, where I was 3 years ago, where I am 2 years ago, where I am today is all very different. And I have on my wall, which you can't see, but I have art on my wall that is pictures of my YouTube thumbnails from the beginning of my journey up until present day. And I have them in art on my wall. And if you look, you'll see such a different journey every year. There's people who are in my life now that weren't in my life then. There's people who I showcase on my YouTube channel kind of prominently for a while that I haven't spoken to in like a year or two. So it's funny because some of my videos, if I ever had one of my 2022 videos go viral, that girl, like as she was in the video, doesn't exist anymore. I'm also not the same single woman unicorn. I was a single unicorn. I'm now happily in a couple and enjoying the lifestyle from a very different perspective. So it's just so fascinating that our lives do change and evolve so much year over year when it feels like everything's going the same, right? Just some food for thought. All right, I need more cheese. They're good, but they're bland. So, yeah. So I recently had a public speaking engagement. I'm going to take a sip and then tell you about that. So you can also watch a video called I Was So Embarrassed about my first speaking gig. It's literally a diary episode, and I'll put a link in the description. It's also on this Live Unapologetically channel, even though it's from my Dear Diary podcast. And it was about, doing my first public speaking gig as Toronto Unicorn, like officially. And it went okay, but like I am pretty hard on myself with some of the details about what I feel like I didn't do well. But in terms of speaking to the topic matter, I know, yeah, I did fine. But I forgot a few important things about self-promotion, promoting my additional services. I blanked. I forgot to mention things like, hey, if you want to get a hold of me for coaching, like I just forgot. And so it was hard for me to like look back at my experience, and it was hard to like take those lessons, but like I am going to learn the lessons, but it was hard. So I brought this over to show. This was the piece of paper. Okay. This is what I took up to the stage with me, and I had a microphone. And this is what I came up with, because I could never have a script. I wouldn't be like, this is blah, 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 blah. Like, no. I wrote down topics like real humans, real bodies. And I talk in detail about, what can go wrong in the moment of a reality of a fantasy versus the idealized version. So things like that. So I wanted to show you, this is what I took up there. It was fun. I do see more speaking gigs in my future. I think what I want to do is come up with some specific like workshops that I give over and over again, because it's great content. It's going to be well packaged content. And I think in the future, I'll be more prepared that way. So I'm actually really happy I got that done. It's a big step for my career. And hopefully I'll be doing more of those later. But it leads me into what I'm doing now, which is I am building digital courses. For now, I am starting with more of the swinger lifestyle content, like some courses on how to assimilate to that culture. But I am thinking of branching out eventually into other topics that are more mainstream, like just courses even on how to live unapologetically, like how to stop giving a fuck what people think, because it's not super easy unless you unpack the certain things you need in terms of how your brain, functions automatically, or your patterns. And so I think I have something to offer there. So that's where I'm going to be putting a lot of my investment energy in the next little while. I'll be making a lot of video content that isn't going to be for YouTube. It'll be for a course that you can take online at your own pace, and hear like the deep dive of my advice on how to do certain things. So I'm going to put links again in the description for all this stuff. But I also wanted to mention, if you don't want to miss a live stream, if you want to hang out with me live and in person, you can do that. I have in the description of this video a link where you can sign up for YouTube alerts. I will email you in advance of me going live, and I will not spam you with any other email unless you subscribe for my newsletter. In addition, it is literally just a, hey, I'm going live tomorrow. You want to join? And anyone on that list down the line is also potentially going to be invited to live hangouts on Zoom instead of just a one-sided hangout. I'm actually going to take some of the most invested people and have an actual Zoom meeting hangout so we can actually interact. So there's things like that to look forward to. If you're interested, I hope you sign up with your email because it's how I'm going to keep control of this stuff now, right? If anything happens to my page or my channels, I'll have an email list of people I can be like, hey, this is where you can find me now. So you can sign up for my newsletter as well. I don't spam people. I hate it when I sign up for people's stuff and I feel like they come on too strong. You know what I'm talking about? Like, don't email me 3 times a week. You know what I mean? To somebody new. Like, I don't care what it is that you're trying to sell me. Don't email me 3 times a week. It's annoying. And that's just like the low end. I remember there's this company I paid to take some AI training with. The AI training was good. The daily emails that I would, it's not spam, but like the daily emails that I got from them was ridiculous. There was days where I got 3 emails a day because of this AI program I was taking. I don't need 3 emails a day from anybody. So I'm never going to do that to you. It'll be probably once a month at most. So yes, I hope you sign up for those. That way we can stay in touch. And yeah, so I'm going to have another nibble of my meat stick. It's good. It's like my favorite thing. All right. I think the last thing I'm going to talk about for today is my teenage years, because I think it's important that people who are interested know who I was back then. I was a rebellious teenager. I broke the law. I got arrested for shoplifting. I have never stolen anything again. And so like I learned my lesson, but that was back when I was 12. And I was like anti-authority my whole life. I don't like that teachers had authority over me. I didn't like that I had to ask to use the bathroom at school. Like I literally was on the ground floor in a classroom and I was told, I'm like, I need to go use the restroom. And they're like, no, you need a hall pass. And I decided to go and jump out of the open windows instead because I didn't have a hall pass. And I didn't hurt myself. It was literally ground floor. But these are the things that I would do in my teenage years. I was very rebellious. I don't know how my mother handled me. She did a good job for what the workload was. But I just was somebody who liked to push limits. I don't know. I would sneak out of the house sometimes and like go party. I remember I did a few things that I probably shouldn't say on YouTube. So I'll just remember where I am. But I really did have this upbringing of F the system, right? Like I don't want to do anything just because I'm told to, whether it's religion, whether it's get married. I've always been a free thinker. And so I kind of live that way. So I'm in school being told, to think certain things or think certain way. And I'd always ask questions. Well, why? And have you, I would try to critique their argument, especially with my mom with religion. I would try to like critique her religion argument to like see what was underneath of it. And I remember not being satisfied with her answer. And I was like, okay, well, that's that then. And that's when I was young. So I've always just kind of trailed my own path, so to speak, in life. It's just kind of been how I do things. But in my teenage years, I mean, I also lived in a small town. There was like a bunch of people that you knew who lived amongst you. And otherwise, there wasn't people for miles. And yeah, like it was fun. There was no cops around. So we would literally go and have like big drinking parties in the woods. And like, it was just so fun. Like I remember my friend V, she had this like annual party at her house because they had a lot of land, and this annual party, and people would come from all over the high school areas and they'd all park their vehicles down the street. And we would have this giant bonfire, and just people would just be like multiple BYO chair, right? People would bring their chair, people would bring their booze, and it was fun. So I would go to friends to parties like that. We also went mud bogging a lot, which is basically when we go to like this place that's got some divots in the ground with some, mud and whatever. And these people with big trucks, like, think it's fun to like go and drive through the mud. So it's something that a lot of my friends enjoyed. Mud bogging, again, is what it's called. So I used to love doing that. And yeah, like living in a small town is very different than living in a city. And so the way I was able to like rebel and like party and like live life when I was in my, when I was 17, for example, is just very different than if you lived with the scrutiny of like a city. So I was so happy to move to a city though. Like, I wasn't a country girl deep down. I made the most of it, but I was meant to be a city girl. And so that's where I'm at. It's funny. I got this out today thinking I was going to color. Now I'm like so surprised that I just chit chatted the whole time. But I'm out time now, and I'm going to scarf this down when the camera's off, I think, because it's really not easy to wait to talk when I'm like, I know I'm being filmed and, I can't edit this really. So anyways, thank you for coming. I am loving this bubble tea. It is the highlight of my night. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. So if you can, please hit a like on this video. I do, like, it does mean something. I do look at that number and I appreciate it. If you like these lives and you want to hang out again, write a comment that says you enjoy it. And also, if you want to click and sign up with your email, then I can send you the alerts. So all right, until next time. By the way, I am going to be going to my fan page real quick to do a live stream there because I also like hanging out with them in the more invested space. So if you want to come there right now, you're going to see me live. I can't put a link on YouTube. You're going to have to find the link. I believe in you, but it's also on my link tree and on my website, but I'm not allowed to put the link literally on YouTube. So that's that, but that's where I'm going right now. Thank you for watching. Awesome.